Good evening and welcome to my YouTube channel. So, the Starlight Data Insight YouTube channel. Today, quickly, we want to see the difference between qualitative and quantitative analysis and when to use them. All right, one of the challenges that I believe um, students face mostly is deciding which data analysis to use for their research topic. So most times they just use the one that they feel they know best, even if it's not the one that best fits the topic. So at the end of the day, they would have done a good job with the kind of analysis they chose, but they still find out that they don't have the required grade. You find out that you don't have the required grade, the kind of grade that you want, and that's simply because you're not using the right analysis to analyze the research questions in your research topic. And of course, of your research questions, your research topic is going to determine how your research questions will be formed. So let's quickly get into it. Just this is going to be a short video, just to make a bit of clarification. So very short. So I said when to use qualitative or quantitative analysis. Let's quickly define what qualitative and quantitative analysis are for those that probably don't have an idea of it before. This is just a beginner's video, right? Okay, so let's see. Qualitative analysis is the process of investigating and interpreting non-numerical data to understand what it means and how it relates to the research. So, in qualitative analysis, what you are doing basically is that you are investigating, you are analyzing textual data. So, that is what we mean by non numerical data. Textual data. Textual data. All right. You are analyzing explanations. You are analyzing spoken words. It could be maybe you conducted interview for research participants, and then you now transcribe. You are analyzing the texts, the textual data that you get from research, and it could be analyzing past papers on the set topic. You're analyzing research papers on the set topic. And you know, qualitative analysis can be used for both primary and secondary data. I've just explained that now. Primary data are those data that you get first hand from research participants, like interviews, focus that you get from interviews, focus groups, open-ended surveys. By open-ended survey, it means that you are handling out surveys to participants, but in those surveys, they are going to be it's going to be more of writing their feelings, more of writing their experiences. You understand? It's not about selecting an option. All right. It's not about selecting an option like you would have mostly agree, disagree, strongly agree. No, 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 no. In this one, they are filling in the gap and writing explanations. All right. That's open ended survey. And in interviews is, of course, typical interview, you ask them question, they respond back, you take down their answers, or you record and then you go back to transcribe what you have recorded. So that's qualitative analysis. Quantitative analysis, it refers to the systematic investigation of phenomena using numerical data and statistical, mathematical, or computational techniques to derive insight or test hypothesis. All right. Um, what all this means is that in quantitative analysis, you are analyzing numerical data. Now, I didn't put it here, but it can be used for primary or secondary data as well. Mostly used in primary data. But when it's used in secondary data, it means that secondary data refers to data that you did not get from research participants directly. You are talking about research papers that have been published. So what you are, if you want to do quantitative analysis using secondary sources, you are not going to go over the Herculean task of looking for explanations, looking for text and all that. What you are really looking for, you are looking for figures. It means in those kind of papers, you would have tables where that presents figures, figures probably in comparison with one another or in similarity to one another. You would have graphs, you would have bar charts, pie charts, and how you get. So those are the things that you are really going to now analyze, as it were. All right. Okay. So let's see. Um, so having seen this, when do you now use quantitative analysis and when do you use qualitative analysis? Can you just use them anytime you feel like? So let's see. All right. So I said when to use either qualitative or quantitative data. Now, number one, use qualitative data if you aim to explore or understand concepts, experiences, or behaviors. If your aim in your research is to understand the concept of something, all right. Now, it's not just to understand the concept, you want to understand the experiences around it, the behaviors around it. So, in that sense, for that research, your goal is to answer why questions or how questions. I said, for example, why do students choose online learning platforms? That's a why question. Students choose online learning platforms for different reasons. So you want to really analyze those reasons for them choosing online learning platforms. You cannot easily get that by saying strongly agree, mostly agree. Why do students choose online learning platforms? Because it is fast, because it is this. If you do that, yeah, you are already guiding your research towards a monotonous result. You understand? So it's best to use qualitative data in those kind of research topics, as it's going to give you, a wider range or depth of answer. Now, but use quantitative data if your aim is to measure, test, or quantify variables. In this sense, your goal is to answer what, how much, or how many. For example, what percentage of students prefer online learning? And that seems simplistic. You can say, or you can say that what learning platforms do students use the most? You get what learning platforms do students use the most? Now you can now ask, and why do they use them? For that, you can still use quantitative data because the main aim is to understand the learning platforms that they use most. And from their answers that you get from the questionnaire that you're going to draft, you can now answer the why. Even though there's a why question there, but the main thing that you first talk about is the what. So if your aim is to measure or test or quantify variables, you can use quantitative data. Also, for qualitative data, non-numerical, descriptive, and subjective. I think we've said this um, during the definition when I was explaining the definition. So it's collected via interviews, focus groups, observations, open-ended surveys. This has been explained. And for example, detailed opinions on a new education policy. To get detailed opinions, you would have to interview those that were affected by the new education policy. And interviewing them, you cannot really preempt their responses, as it were. So you cannot really preempt their responses. By if you say you want to use questionnaire for this type of data, it means you sort of are already preempting their responses. So you are giving them options to pick from what you have preempted. But if you do it via interview, you are giving them access to speak out their mind. And then that's going to give you the real raw data, the facts that you need. You get. But you can use quantitative data if what you want to do is numerical, measurable, and objective. For example, exam scores of students in different schools. Now, if we are going to use another variant of this qualitative data, of this example that we have in qualitative data, these detailed opinions on a new education policy, if we are going to do this using quantitative data, right, we are going to see it's going to be like which departments are mostly affected by the new education policy and what is the implication of the effects. Now, for that one, you can use quantitative data, right? Because your main aim is that you want to know the department that are affected the most. So by already knowing by getting the department that are affected the most from the data you collect there, you can now deduce the effects still using quantitative data. You get. All right. So let's move on. Okay. Now, going further, when to use qualitative, you choose qualitative data if for in-depth understanding of a small group of phenomenon, if you're exploring new or complex topics. If you know the topics that you have chosen is actually, if it's a complex topic, you would want to use qualitative data so you can have enough You can have enough textual information to analyze. But choose quantitative data if it is broad, generalizable insight across large populations. For example, measuring the graduating rate trends over 10 years. That's just an example. Also, now let's see when to use qualitative or quantitative data, just putting it in a better perspective now. Now, for example, use qualitative data for exploratory research. Now, what is exploratory research? Exploratory research means you are exploring into the topic. Like, not much is really known about that topic. Not much is really known, all right, about that topic before. Now, this example here might not be the very best example, but it gives an idea. Investigating how teachers adapt to AI based tools. All right, investigating. Now, AI, especially generative AI, is relatively new in the academic space. So, there is that struggle between teachers adapting to it or rejecting it. So now, if there is a research on investigating how teachers adapt to AI-based tools, it is best done using qualitative data. You want to conduct an interview to really hear from the teachers that are affected or the teachers that are either adapting or rejecting it. Your what you want to know there is not how many teachers are adapting it. That won't help the how they are adapting to it. That won't help you to get how they are really adapting to it. You don't want to know the number of teachers that are adapting to it. You don't really want to know. It's not really about the schools that are adapting to it, but it is about how teachers are adapting to it. All right, so you really want to use a qualitative data for that, but use quantitative data for descriptive research. For example, the average number of hours students spend studying. Right, that's you can use quantitative data for that. You can use quantitative data for testing hypothesis or cause effect relationships. Actually, um, it's advisable really that for whatever quantitative data you want to use that you are testing hypothesis, if you want to conduct um, analysis, a quantitative data analysis, and if you don't have hypothesis in your structure in your chapter one, that's a sign that you might already be going wrong, right? Because really, what quantitative data is for, the major thing that you use it for in research is that you are using it to test hypothesis or cause effect relationships. You want to use numerical data to test the hypothesis that the research questions are based on. And maybe in another episode, I'm going to like show us how to formulate our research questions, because sometimes the undoing of many students is because they don't know how to formulate research questions. The research questions they formulate are wide apart from the scope of the topic that they have chosen. All right. So maybe in another episode, we're going to see um, how to formulate research questions. But let's get through with this. And then an example here, we can also use quantitative data for causal research. I say causal, sorry. I mean for casual research, casual research or causal research. So testing hypothesis or cause effect relationships. Yeah, both causal, both casual research there. So again, let's see. Let's see topics that fit either qualitative quantity or quantitative data analysis. Okay, so let's see qualitative topic. For example, exploring teachers' perceptions of technology integration in secondary education. By saying exploring already, you are telling us that you want to explore their perceptions. It's not numerical. You can't explore their perceptions by giving a numerical data analysis. Now, the objective here is that you want to understand teachers' experiences, challenges, and attitudes towards using technology in the classroom. So, with that, you want to use semi structured interviews, and your analysis is going to be thematic. Quantitative topic. Now, a quantitative topic variant uh, of this one that you have said, of this qualitative topic that I said, will be the impact of technology integration on student performance in secondary education. Now, you want to measure. You understand? When they say the impact of technology integration, that means you want to measure impact. And once your topic is tending towards measuring an impact, all right, it's best that you use quantitative analysis, because by measuring an impact, you are going to be dealing with numerical data. How do you measure impact? You will know the number of people that are affected by this, all right. You will know the numbers that are not affected by this. You will note the percentage of those that affects, what that effect has cost for them. So you are measuring impact. So that's fit for quantitative. All right. And okay, for another example, qualitative, investigating leadership styles in startups. A case study. You see, you already said you want to investigate leadership styles. You want to investigate leadership. So that means you want to understand how leadership approaches influence team dynamics and organization growth. So with that, you can conduct interview with startup founders and employees. Meanwhile, this is just an example topic. In an ideal level 7 master's topic, if you give this topic to your supervisor is going to say that it's not specific enough. Why? Because you just say leadership styles in startups. Startups is broad. He might want you to narrow it down to which startups. Is it fintech startups or health tech startups and all that? Or if you are not narrowing the startups down, you might want to narrow the case study down. You might choose specific, you know, specific industry for your case study, or yeah, a specific industry for your case study, or even a specific organization for your case study, using that specific organization as a sample size. You get so right. Now, for the quantitative topic, you want to see the effect. Now, once again, when you hear the effect, it means you are measuring. You want to measure the effects. So anything that looks like measuring impact, measuring effect, comparing, testing, and all that, that's quantitative. But anything that looks like you are investigating, you are exploring, you are doing a case study approach of an organization that is going to require you, to get perceptions. You get, so that's qualitative. All right. So now, for this effect of leadership styles on employee productivity in startups, that means you want to analyze the relationship between leadership styles, transformational, transformational, measurable. You see, measurable productivity outcomes. You want to measure the productivity outcomes. So the method here is, you use structured questionnaires. You use questionnaires for that, and then you're going to conduct a correlation and regression analysis. All right. So that brings me to the end of this short explanation. In the next episode that I'm going to upload, I'm going to be explaining how to conduct qualitative analysis, or how to carry out qualitative analysis using specialized tools like Vivo. Thank you.